So hi everyone, it's a huge honor to be here. I'm going to confess I'm not actually director, I'm head of program, but I appreciate the accidental upgrade, so maybe that might happen. My paper explores the question of is community generated or fabricated through Bluecoat, which is a 100-year-old art centre in Liverpool in the northwest of England. And we're based in a 300-year-old building that in the past has looked like this and now looks like this. So it's pretty similar from the outside. It's changed a lot on the inside. It has a kind of an incidental but quite kind of dark relationship to the history of textiles because it was funded by the transatlantic slave trade, and I'll mention that in passing, but also talk a little bit about some of the artists and communities that we work with. My main focus as I weave through this establishing material and context is to discuss Bluecoat's current social, civic and artistic functions and the way they intersect with many communities. I've distinguished as we go between what I would call communities of interest, so communities who are bounded by a common interest and who associate with the building, and then residential communities. And I'm going to talk in particular about a community in an area called Granby, where Assemble won the Turner Prize, the design collective, for a proto-ceramics workshop and textile workshop, but also try and unpack some of the complexities of what this neighbourhood is and how we work with them. I'm interpreting, in regards to the title, generated to mean sort of self-generated or self-determined, so the way that communities might self-determine, and that fabricated isn't necessarily a pejorative word. You could fabricate a community, but it may lead to lasting relationships. I'm always aware that interventions by arts institutions and the role that we play as an institution in communities, both of interest and established, operates at all times between the two poles of utopianism and instrumentalism. And I'm indebted always to the writing of Grant Kester, the art historian, who seeks to identify the aesthetics as well as the social value of collaboration, and to the critical eye of Claire Bishop, who warns us against the performing of a public for neoliberal agendas. I'm not going to kind of reference those beyond this momentary introduction because I'm going to privilege talking about people and place, but I'm more than happy to talk about institutional responsibility and complicity as we go. So, this is the past, this is how we are now. Just to reference really briefly what I mentioned at the beginning, Bluecoat as an art centre takes its name from Bluecoat, the school, which is an orphanage set up in 1717, which means this is the 300th anniversary of the building. And it was sort of mainly a workhouse at the beginning, and the children we found on the records were put to work, educated a little bit, but the girls spun cotton and the boys picked oakum. And oakum is a tarred fibre used to seal ships, and then it was recycled as rope. So Liverpool is a port city. I'm just going to go reorientate you. It's not a manufacturing city. It's the city of entry for these materials. But the philanthropic gesture to form the school was based on the earnings of the slave trade, and that's basically what the entire city and country across the 1700s and 1800s is built on. So while we're incredibly proud of our heritage, and it's a beautiful building, we also kind of work to make public this history. I'll stop touring us across the globe. We've been working recently about another sort of powerful legacy, the legacy of sugar, which is another material that travelled at this time with Elaine Mitchener, one of the UK's premier vocal and performance artists. And she has a very personal relationship to sugar, to her own family, which is Jamaican origin. And we've done a major commission by her, which the BBC will broadcast soon. So it's just to kind of give an insight into this sort of really forming, I suppose, one community forming at the cost of another at a certain point. The school changes across the decades to become a school as we would know it. And by the early 1900s moves out, and the building is derelict, and it's hard to believe it was nearly knocked down and cleared, but that's what might have happened in 1900. But a group of artists called the Sandon Studios move in, and they're my first example of a community of interest, I guess. They move in 1907. They're wealthy, bohemian, internationally connected with the post-impressionists, and they were kind of against the art school tradition of their day. So they see this as a chance to have a proto-art school. They start to exhibit a little bit, but it's not until 1927 that they open as a public art centre. And it's quite nice to think that you could have like 20 years to get it right before you open, but that's what they did. And one of their founding manifestos, which I actually found in an archive almost by accident, was that it was a place for arts, literature, science for adult instruction, and the diffusion of useful knowledge, which is a really beautiful interdisciplinary ethos. And I asked two young female designers, Hello Jonzo, to reinterpret this as a print that's both the kind of pixelated and scripted work. It's going to pause the breath. Over the years, the building's changed, so the facade looks the same from the front. We have a new brutalist wing, a really huge brutalist gallery space, a performance space. But I think this slide, in a way, actually, much as I love these kind of spaces, this slide actually sums up better what the Bluecoat is. It's a place that people use very casually. So it's a place where community groups in the traditional sense meet. We're the kind of backdrop to a group called Choir with No Name who meet weekly. They're people recovering from homelessness. They cook a meal together, they sing, and it's their weekly kind of safe space. And Bluecoat has become even more of a safe space as some of the streets around us have privatized, have been sold on, and people are being moved on, particularly homeless people. So it's actually, we're kind of actually serving another kind of social and civic function. We're also home to artists, and that's our other sort of community of interest, I guess, to keep referring back to the idea of community. I'm just going to run really quickly through some slides of artists. They're almost all UK, and some are northern, because it's always great in opportunities like this to expose your fellow country people to a new audience. They're all working, they're all trained as visual artists, and then they have all appropriated applied arts and textiles and work also, in some cases, in a socially engaged manner. And there's been a resurgence in the UK, I think, in a kind of interest in the handmade, in a sort of merging of applied arts and visual arts. It's a very strong tendency. So we have Jonathan Baldock coming next year, joint with Camden Art Centre, who works with ceramics, textiles, and performance to explore non-binary and queer identities. We've recently shown Marina Harris doing her PhD at Goldsmiths, who transposes fashion into clay and cloth into sculpture. We worked with Alice May Williams, who has been exploring the kind of hidden queer history of a stately home near us, and this was a project about a future utopia. With Liverpool-based Frances Disley, who trained in print at the Royal College, and whose interest now in print extends across bodies, across backdrops, and across people she collaborates with. She also made a curtain for us, which is both a curtain and a painting. And this was for a show called Abacus, which I curated this summer for children. And we actually turned the gallery over to children, and that became the community of interest then. This is mine. I thought I'd throw that in. And we both worked with artists to address the spaces and make the spaces useful, but we're also referencing Kurt Rowland, who was a kind of pioneering but now largely forgotten educator and theorist. In our performance space, this is work by US-born artist Melissa Gordon, now UK-based, and she printed a backdrop for an Impossible stage play by Mina Loy, but then the backdrop became a week-long exhibition. And in the same space, we worked with Ruth Beale on a Good Society lunch. And her work is, the material is people, essentially. She is engaged with people. And the only proviso to join the Good Society lunch was that you had to be under 30. So sadly, I missed it. But there was an interest she has in how people under 30 might express what a good society is. And if you're older in the UK and you have a memory of Margaret Thatcher, you might talk about the welfare state, but if you're younger, you might think about good society in different terms. Everything was an artwork, And this includes the tablecloth, which was printed by Liverpool artist Sophia Mohammed Noor, who's going to lead us towards Granby as we go. She works a lot with natural materials. And in terms of everything being art, we recently commissioned a wallpaper by the Grantchester Pottery, which looked at the early history of the post-impressionists being at Bluecoat. And on the wall is hanging a work by Samoya Keda, who's my kind of segue to Granby. So Samoya Keda is an artist based in Granby, and it's really important for us to show the full diversity of artists in the city. She's an incredible printmaker. She's the only artist in the city I know who has a risograph press. She does work for other people in her own work. This is her own work. But when she's working for other people, she's working for Assemble, the design architecture collective. And she's working here, 1.5 miles from Bluecoat. So it's kind of walkable, just to give you a kind of sense of scale. So this is a neighbourhood that's very, very close to the city centre. And this is what Assemble are up to at the moment in Granby. They started off with a huge range of different projects, including textiles, but they've kind of got this ceramics project at the moment. To explain a little bit more about Granby, you have to understand Liverpool as a place that has been one of the sort of lowest economic performing in the country. So as the port closed and sort of like the 70s and the 80s, the economy of the city collapsed. And what would have been beautiful, desirable housing still would be like worth $1 million in London. Big Victorian housing just became worthless. So this is an area very close to the city centre, but it declined over the years. It's got a very diverse neighbourhood. It's got the oldest black population in Liverpool in the sense of people who've been around since the 1740s. And as people moved out, Liverpool became a shrinking city for a certain period of time. There was also a sense in which it was going to be kind of razed to the ground. And then also there have been race riots in the early 80s in direct response to police oppression, which is very real. It kind of flared up across the countries, and that left the area kind of tarnished with a bad reputation, sort of very unfairly, but it ended up being a bit like a kind of Detroit or something. For the workshop to be there is a major kind of phenomena, really. It's remarkable that it's there, but it's not there or as the only thing that's changed in the area. And for decades, the residents, many of whom we know, took over the streets and were greening the streets. So they were doing guerrilla planting, stringing bunting, painting on windows, because when a house was boarded up, the windows would be painted over with black paint. And one of the residents was saying, imagine how oppressive that is. You're not only living in boarded up houses, but all the light has gone. So for decades, the residents have been part of this kind of fight back, which has been about adding kind of colour to the area. It's a diverse sort of neighbourhood, as I've mentioned. Nigerian, Somali, Yemeni, Syria. But it's also incredibly diverse in terms of the fact it contains lots and lots of artists. So sometimes Bluecoat goes into a neighbourhood where there isn't much cultural activity and you're kind of doing outreach with artists. Here there are artists already there. There's a mixture of young arts graduates like Samaya and Sophia. Nina Edge, who's one of the sort of black British artists of the 1980s, is there. And then community artists who are untrained but very active. And then a sense in which creativity has been the way that you fight back. So in a sense, the sort of how are we useful was kind of who can we talk to there, and it was the artist, but also this broader sense of a community. At the moment, we're involved in a project called the Winter Garden. So the renaissance of the area has come through the residents, and they formed a community land trust, which allowed them to buy 11 houses. And they're being renovated, and they'll be rented at low rent and sold at the kind of local salary of the area, and they can't be sold on. And that's incredibly important because as an area regenerates, it's the most diverse communities who will be moved on. And you're always kind of really aware that the double-edged sword of regeneration is gentrification and how you might look out for that. But because of the Community Land Trust, which the residents formed, lobbied the council, the housing associations have also moved back into the area. So more than 11 houses are being renovated, but you have to start somewhere. So this is a kind of positive change. But 2 of the houses were too derelict really to save. So Assemble are making what they're calling the Winter Garden, which will be a kind of greenhouse planted by the community, and also a residency house. And there is a planting group that pre-exists this project, so they are the ones who are really looking forward to doing this. Safaya, who we've worked with, Safaya Mohammed Noor, our job has been to help support the kind of procuring of an artist for the commission, but to make sure that it's not someone kind of parachuting in. So we're only one voice around the table, basically. The table is literally a table like this of food. And we meet and talk with people. And this is Safaya's own project, which is the L8 Artists group who meet over food. And Safia Mohammed Noor is also an emerging curator. She's also interested not only in who is in the area and how to activate them. So we've had a program of skill and exchange. It was what she's very interested in. She set that as the kind of ethos. So this idea of co-learning is very, very relevant to what's happening here. So she was aware so many people in the area have skills and experiences, but they had been kind of devalued as a community. It was seen as a bad community. So a lot of the artistic work has been about skills and exchange, and that's been spoken word, poetry, and then also it's an area that's very curious about the world. So artists have been invited in, and Safaya invited in Corinne Silva and Eva Sajovic, and the residents were interested in them because they've been working at Elephant Castle in London, and also sort of battling with sort of similar but different kind of regeneration issues. I think it's just nice to show some other pictures of Granby. There's a lot still boarded up, but it's also an incredibly green area. So if you hear about it or has heard about it as a kind of written off inner city slum, it's actually incredibly beautiful. And they created a Granby textile together. So they worked for a day and communally created it. I'm going to draw my divergent talk to a close, which is weaved through some centuries or decades, a couple of buildings and some neighbourhoods. And Bluecoat and Granby are sort of different sort of examples of community, the sort of the kind of fabricated community of Bluecoat in a sense, and the sort of generated or determined community of Granby. But at the same time, the lines are quite blurred because you could also see Bluecoat as a community in itself of interest formed by a community of artists, which now serves a community of citizens. And Granby was once a community entirely defined by postcode, by geography and the fate of city planning. And now it's sort of recognised civically and culturally in its own right through the determination of its diverse and creative individuals living there. So it's always nice to end on a note of something, if not utopian, then hopeful. Thank you very much.
Marianne, please take your seat. The second presentation will be by Wee from ZeroStation. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. And I'm inviting you to Vietnam. I think many of you know about Vietnam. I come from the small organization that we call the ZeroStation. And the whole name is ZeroStation, the place to play. And we call ourselves, and many people call ourselves as an independent art space, but please do not think independent art space as a terminology. because we independent, because sometimes nobody help us. So we have to do ourselves. And if you know a little bit about the situation of the political in Vietnam, you know that sometimes we have to deal with the censorship, but it's not so bad. We still survive, but it's not like before, but it's still the issue. So this is independent aspect in that way. So I'm trying to, in my presentation, I will try to introduce about ZeroStation, some concept of ZeroStation by explaining the name of the ZeroStation. So that's ZeroStation, the place to play. We have the website, and on website we upload a lot. So if you have time, just come there to entertain. So the zero. So what is zero? Actually, zero is not like nothing, but actually when we speak about zero, we try to place with the logic of visible and invisible. Actually, for us, we think like every work and appearance in the art should different or maybe opposite with the work or experience in the commercial work. Somehow it's like I can say that visible is very different with exposed. So we should find a way to be visible, but at the same time we still keep ourselves out of exposed. So that is sometimes we need to be invisible to be visible, and sometimes, visible, invisible in this way, like that. I will introduce a little bit more in illustrating with our project. So the station, I love the idea of the train station. So in the train station, I think this is the place for possibility. So everyone can meet in the train station, but they don't need to stay there. They will go somewhere else. So in ZeroStation, in our place, everything can be happen. So you don't need to be artist. You don't need to be, if you are a dancer, you can comment, you can experiment something else. And sometimes you just go there and just, even you don't need to do art. We have the space for you to read or whatever. We have the library, and it's a place, the station is the platform. And the place, I think we have the many meanings of the place. So it could be the geographical venue, the context of the culture and political, very particular context, different with, maybe even different with Hanoi, because I'm living in Saigon. So when this is a place to place, mean the place is different. So maybe the critical relationship with local issue is like, I think this is also the thing that we discuss about the community. So it could be the multifunctional instrument in terms of, actually in ZeroStation now, we have the one room for studio and for workshop, one library, and we have the big garden where we grow vegetable. And we count that space as an instrument. So somehow we do a flea market, and sometimes we do workshop, and sometimes we do symposium. Sometimes we just come to have the coffee shop, and we just organize a philosophy workshop in the last month. And also the network making. The place, so I think I like the workplace because here I like to think a little bit about the term of the community. Actually, I think I am really interested in what the professor mentioned about Hannah Arendt, about the commonness, community commonness or differences. But I think I'm thinking the people or they don't necessary to be only different or common. Sometimes they common, and sometimes they different. So we cannot separate in that way. So I'm thinking about the place that to play. So in the place, we don't need to have we don't need to be friends to play, right? So we create the place, and in the place, everything can be happen. And of course, it's good if we can be friends after the play, after the game. But we don't need necessary. And somehow I love the time-based relationship. You know, when you come to the play, everyone to focus and make the intensive relationship in the play. So we try to create the place like that. Even you don't like me in the everyday life, but in the game you can join. So you can play with us. So I like the idea of the play. So you know, I try to think about the some of the thing that we think about ZeroStation is like irresponsibility. I mean, we don't try to have the social responsibility because I think everyone, you know, think about social responsibility, but somehow it could be, you know, very superficial. And for example, like we artists, we have to accept it. And I am not activist, actually. And how we have to think about the relationship with our work, with the community and with the other in terms of, you know, like time-based relationship. So which and here we come back to the thinking about the play. So we just try to create the place to play. And if you join to play, it's okay, good. And if you don't like, maybe the next time it's okay. And we just try to think about the work's laziness because actually we don't have the program. We just have the place. And when we have money and we do project, and we don't have money, we try to do project without money. I mean, it's just come and read. It's like we have the workshop on the Heidegger, the last month, and we don't need to pay much. Just the 10 artists just come and actually I'm working in the also literature and translation scene too, so I can invite my teacher to come and share. It's just Heidegger for artists. So you know, I don't know if they can understand or not, but actually we gather and we speak about something, and we think about our mission is just survive. I'm thinking about the metaphor of the poetry session in the library, you know. So in the library, of course, huge library, you always can find the poetry session. But even when you come there, nobody buy it. Very few people come there to buy. But it's still there. It's survived there. And one day, if you come there and you cannot see the poetry session, it's a big problem. But when it's there, it cannot help in a normal way, right? So you cannot to read the poem and then you know how to cook the rice, okay? No, you just need there, and you go there, you find there. If you need, and you come and you find. So I'm thinking about our mission is just try to survive in community and like that. And as long as we survive, everything okay. And I don't know, and I'm thinking about what we do is like. So the people think that we do is art, but actually I'm thinking about the way the Greek defined art as the technique is like bringing forth. So what we do, we just try to bring forth something. We don't think about. I think make the exhibition is okay, but it's as so long as can bringing forth something, and organize things and let things to happen. So we try to do. We try to think about it in that way. And our most recent project is the Asia Invisible Station. Okay, visible and invisible. I just mentioned. So this is the 2-year-long project. Actually, we have money to do that with the funding from Asia Center and Japan Foundation, and it's still ongoing now. And this could be the interdisciplinary project. We did a lot of different kind of the project. We organized a symposium. We organized a film festival, Southeast Asian Film Festival, and we organized a workshop for art criticism for the young art writer in Vietnam. So this is the first workshop in art criticism in Vietnam, and we invite 2 facilitators from Japan, Hiroyuki Hattori, and another guys from Lee Wang Choi, come and stay 10 days in ZeroStation and work with artists. This is the film festival, but we try to think about a film festival as not in the normal way. So in the week or 10 days, we try to screen the movie in the private space all around of the city, and we have the update the address on the website for everyone can come. So the film could be screened at the coffee shop, at private house, at the shop selling vegetable or whatever. And at the same time, we also organize a symposium at the Ho Chi Minh City Cinema Theater University. So the concept of the project is that we try to think about the way of the Vietnamese people think about the cinema. Actually, we think about cinema maybe different with the like a Western thinking about cinema as like theater or whatever. If you know that in the 90s or in the 80s, all of the cinema that my generation watch is the Hong Kong Kung Fu, and in television, a video, VHS. So the sense of us about cinema is not something that's very familiar, and we can live with it. And maybe in the night we go out and to buy the ticket at the gate and come to the space that many people to see very small television and screen about like many things like that. So I'm thinking bringing down the cinema into that environment like that. And this is on the cinema, on the film are from independent filmmaker from Southeast Asia. I can introduce a little. How can make forward, because I don't want to screen all of them. Okay. So. You can come. Actually, you can come to the website to see. But I like to introduce a little bit the feeling. So in the festival, we invite a group of audience we call the engaged audience. So they have to follow the whole of screening, and then they can write about what they see, what they watch.
Ấn tượng bởi vì kêu gọi làm khán giả từ trước giờ thì
ví dụ khán giả thì họ sẽ
đi đến nơi địa điểm như là địa điểm triển lãm hay là đến phòng chiếu phim, chứ không thấy, ít nhất là mình chưa thấy ai là kêu gọi để làm khán giả bao giờ. Thì mình mới tìm hiểu thêm là có nghĩa không phải kêu gọi để làm khán giả thường mà làm khán giả dấn thân.
Thấy khá thú vị, kiểu như chiếu này nọ các phim nói chung là của thế giới ngầm.
Wow. Tất cả cái bộ phim vậy cho nên là suốt cả các buổi chiếu khác thì mình không có được cái
The Cambodia, filmmaker, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand.
Thực ra thì cái bộ phim nó đang nói về cái chứng minh nhân dân để cho về nhân quyền, về cái khi mà có một cái sự công nhận về nhân quyền của pháp luật ở được công nhận thì bản thân họ cũng làm nên một cái identity của họ và họ rất là mạnh mẽ.
Cái phần mà mình chú ý có lẽ là cái phần hỏi đáp.
This is the screening in the studio. Okay, this is the project, but we have the many projects. So maybe you can comment. I'm waiting for the discussion. Maybe at that time we can discuss more about what we are doing. Yeah, this is the schedule of the screening. You can see the many screening. And we invite the people from the Hanoi, from Hue, from region to come, and Philippine artists. So this is also the project that we did in Indonesia. This is a mural, very big mural about Saigon, but we locate in the Yogyakarta. So we try to think about Saigon in the terms of something that we can imagine. So we invited one Vietnamese artist and one Yogyakarta artist to develop the project. So, and yeah, this is accreditation workshop we do. That's what we do when we have money. But when we don't have, we still do something. But I like to introduce some of the project here. But at the moment, I'm thinking about the concept of connecting, because in Saigon, in Hanoi, in Vietnam now, we have the several art space and several collective. But the thing is that we do the same thing. So every art space, every collective always invite artists, always have the space to show workshop or exhibition. But I'm thinking about other ideas that each place to do one thing. For example, like our space, we will hold the residency. Other space will exhibition, and other space will do something else. Oh, this will reduce the resource, reduce money and labor. So I'm also discussing that idea with some of my colleagues in Vietnam. And in the beginning, they like the idea, but I don't know. So I think we need to develop it more. So ZeroStation to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Huy. Now may I please invite Rizo and Hara to start the third presentation. Thank you.
This. Hello. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hari ini saya akan bercerita tentang perjalanan Pangrok Sulap yang akan dibantu oleh kawan saya, saudara Herol. So, ya kita start dengan apa itu Pangrok Sulap. Pangrok itu adalah musik Pangrok sebab kami berasal dari music scenes. Kami bermain musik Pangrok, dan Sulap itu adalah pondok petani di mana dia melambangkan identiti kami. So Pangrok Sulap ini sebuah kolektif gabungan antara artis, pemuzik dan juga social aktivis.
Hello, he said. And by the grace of God, we shall start this. Pangrok Sulap, Pangrok is the music that they came out from, the music, the punk music scene. And Sulap means a hut. It describes the identity of farmers, which encapsulates every one of the collective.
So, tajuk kita hari ini, topik kita, dan bagi saya, kedua-dua elemen ini penting bagi melahirkan satu community yang harmoni. Okay.
The question was generated or fabricated. For Rizo, both is needed to be generated and to be fabricated to have a harmonized collective and community. That's according to Rizo.
So, Pangrok Sulap, okay, seni dan masyarakat.
Arts and the people.
So latar belakang Pangrok Sulap, dia gabungan dari pelbagai gabungan artis dari pelbagai disiplin. Kita ada tattoo artis, kita ada henna artis, portrait. Ya, dia gabungan dan menjadi sebuah kolektif pada tahun 2012, bertapak di Ranau Sabah, dan salah satu tulang belakang dalam kolektif kami adalah menjalankan perniagaan percetakan dan menjual hasil karya. Itu yang buat kolektif kami bergerak.
The members of Pangrok Sulap came from various types of artists, tattoo artists, mehendi, henna, temporary tattoos, teachers, farmers, and also social activists. And what they do to generate income for the collective is they do printing, various types of printing to sustain. And they started in 2012 and ever since.
So Pangrok Sulap dan community. So Pangrok Sulap dia terlahir dari masyarakat. Pangrok Sulap ini dia terlahir dari masyarakat yang ambil peduli tentang keadaan sekeliling melalui perantaraan seni. Dan apa yang kami buat itu adalah woodcut ataupun cungkil kayu. Itu medium yang kami gunakan.
According to Rizo, Pangrok Sulap was created because of the need by the people who wanted to voice out using arts and woodcut as a medium. Woodcut printing, sorry.
Oh, so community, kami juga menjalankan community service, kerja-kerja kesukarelawan dengan tujuan bagi memperkasa dan memberi inspirasi kepada community.
They do community service, volunteerism, to empower and to inspire the communities.
So ini salah satu kerja yang kami buat. Kami join kerja-kerja volunteer untuk buat projek mini hydro di Kampung Pokolan, Ranau. Kami join NGO Light Up Borneo.
So this is the volunteering work they do. They went into the interiors of Tambunan. That's around 70 kilometers from Kota Kinabalu. And they went to the interiors to help build micro hydro electric generators.
So ini kami pergi buat kerja amal di SK Tinanom di kawasan pedalaman. So Pangrok Sulap dia sebenarnya dia berasal dari kolektif yang buat kerja-kerja kesukarelawan masuk di kawasan pedalaman. So, yeah. Yeah.
They go to kindergartens in the rurals, and because the rurals is very far, so they go there to the interiors, and they do volunteer works like motivational talks and just to uplift the children by doing these kind of things.
Yes. Kita juga pergi di rumah kanak-kanak seperti rumah kanak-kanak Don Bosco, rumah anak-anak yatim. Kita pergi yang macam ini waktu gempa bumi kelas sementara kita buat mural untuk kasih naik semangat budak-budak pergi sekolah dan di rumah anak-anak di rumah OKU. So ini kerja-kerja amal yang kami buat sebelum kami menjadi sebuah kolektif kesenian yang kami bawa medium woodcut.
So before they became established as a woodcut printing collective, they went to orphanage to do all their volunteer works. This was done after the first Malaysian earthquake. So they had makeshift kindergartens. So they came and did paintings of murals on the wall just to uplift the children. And this is right before they called themselves an art collective.
Okay, so dalam macam mana kami engage dengan masyarakat? So kami ada peringkat. Kami pergi peringkat kanak-kanak, sekolah dan juga public. So ini antara gambar-gambar yang kita buat bersama kanak-kanak yang homeschoolingnya.
The way they approach the community, the people, is from the ages of children to the youths and to the general public. So these are the children.
Yang ini sekolah dengan waktu jemputan gerakan seni di KL.
These are youths in public schools in Kuala Lumpur.
So inilah hasil-hasil yang budak sekolah buat. So dia ada proses macam mana kami engage, macam mana kami dekat dengan tu budak-budak, kita ajar dorang cungkil, bikin bengkel, lepas tu proses dia yang buat dia jadi satu benda yang menarik.
They teach students on all the processes of printmaking from scratch until this is created.
Macam ini gerakan seni dari sekolah untuk masyarakat. Dia punya pembawaan kami.
It says here gerakan seni, the art movement dari sekolah untuk masyarakat, from the schools to the people, to the community.
So kita juga buat bengkel di sekolah Juvana, sekolah budak-budak nakal. So macam sekolah ini sebenarnya bukan semua orang dapat masuk pergi sana untuk berbagi sesuatu, berkongsi sesuatu. So Pangrok Sulap boleh masuk sampai pergi sekolah begini untuk berkongsi.
This is a level where the collective is accepted by the public and they are brought into schools with juvenile delinquents. Can I say that? and as you can see that there's police guarding, and before this there's no collective that was accepted to do workshops in these schools. So yeah, it's the first for Sabah to do this.
So selain daripada pergi sekolah-sekolah, ini macam mana kami engage dengan community di luar. So macam event-event yang kami join, Rhythm of Rimba, ini yang betul-betul di public, untuk sama-sama orang awam.
This is the level where they approach the public, everyone, and this is in an art festival in Sendakan, to the north of Sabah. And they've been doing this regularly in support of the event, and the event also supports them.
So ini adalah tahun pertama kami join untuk yang support event ini. So kita banyak bawa message tentang wildlife music festival, tentang pemeliharaan alam.
That's Rizo with long hair. This is, they were trying to convey the message of all the wildlife that is now almost extinct. So they're very into this.
So okay, ini macam mana kami engage dengan community di luar bandar, di mana yang ini di satu kampung dia ada satu case tentang Kaiduan Dam. So ini yang dorang buat dengan karung, dengan apa yang ada di dalam kampung. So kami datang pergi di sana menggunakan seni, perantaran seni untuk kasih sampai suara dorang pergi luar.
So there's this so this is another level where there's this thing is going to be built, the Kaiduan Dam. Kaiduan is a district, and they're going to build a dam, and nine villages are going to be flooded. So what the villagers did was they wrote on gunny sacks and just hang it on the road leading to the Kaiduan district. So the collective thought it was uninteresting of these banners. I mean, not no one, like, it's like, you won't look like things like this. So they decided to go into the villages and do the thing.
Yeah. So kita datang pergi sana untuk berkongsi macam mana kita buat bengkel, kita ajar orang menggunakan seni untuk bersuara.
So they went to the villages with a few processes leading to this, where they teach them how to do interesting looking posters so that people would notice and the message would like go through.
So ini antara proses yang kami buat. Kami bermalam di kampung, kita sanggup tidur di pondok untuk sekadar untuk support. So kami sanggup untuk masuk pergi begitu menggunakan seni untuk
So the collective had to sleep in the verandas because the houses were small, but they stayed in the villages for a few days, and they taught them how to do woodcut printing, and slowly they understood the concept, and they started making. So they gave a bit of cooperation to the collective, and they got this.
So macam selain daripada poster-poster yang kita buat di kain, kita buat di t-shirt supaya bila dorang pakai, dorang bawa pergi mana-mana, itu message tetap jalan.
So they taught them how to do on fabrics and on t-shirts. So whenever they go out, they'll present that issue to the public. And it's also for the villages because they ask, we don't have money to buy the materials. So when they do on t-shirts, they get to sell it and they get to sustain this project so that it becomes something that is ongoing, like on and on.
So dari yang kita nampak karung tadi, sekarang dia jadi sebuah banner yang saya kira lebih orang tertarik untuk anu lah. So berjuang untuk generasi akan datang. Itulah message yang dorang cuba bawa.
In this banner it says we're fighting for the next generation. So this looks better, right?
So okay, tinggal 5 minit lagi. So Pangrok, sulap dan seni. So kita bawa antara message-message yang kita bawa macam ini poster. So macam ini, di belakang saya ada orang kampung, di belakang orang kampung ada saya. Okay.
Behind me are the villages, and behind the villages is me. So it's very, very strong. I'm feeling it right now. So they bring all these posters to wherever they go, and they sell patches and just to sustain.
So moto kami juga jangan beli bikin sendiri. Kita ajar orang untuk supaya kurang membeli.
Don't buy, make your own. So this one, yeah. It's good, I guess.
So macam ini, raikan perbezaan kita sedara, kongsi udara antara message-message yang kita bawa dalam setiap community.
They touch a lot of issues that normally Malaysians won't really talk about, like racism. So this is like celebrate our differences. So you have like 3 people from 3 different races. And this one is like, we are the same blood and we share the same air. So, yeah, you kind of get it or you don't, yeah.
So, kita tidak banyak masa. So, kita teruskan dengan okay, ini antara poster-poster yang ada.
I guess you guys get the idea.
So, macam ini. So, selain daripada itu, kita sudah pencapaian perjalanan Pangrok Sulap selama ini. Kita sampai pergi di Japan, kita sampai di Berlin, kita sampai di Zurich, kita sampai di Mallorca, Spain. Sebuah perjalanan dari kolektif yang kecil, dia boleh sampai pergi tempat yang begitu jauh dengan message yang kita bawa.
Small collective, long way to go.
So, ini antara bengkel-bengkel. So selain daripada sebuah kolektif kan, kita guna seni itu untuk membantu orang lain. So ini antara yang kita tolong. Coba explain tentang ini. Explain yang ini derma, yang itu derma penjualan karya untuk orang kampung ibu tunggal.
Not just communities but also individuals. Like these are artworks that were sold and the proceeds went to single mothers. And this is a friend of them who needed a portable oxygen tank, and yeah, it's really dire. And they sold their artworks, and it was solely for that friend of them. His name is
Oliver.
So
impact dia. So impact dia dalam Pangrok Sulap ini, dia satu seni sebagai nadi untuk melahirkan masyarakat yang harmoni. So kita ada video lepas ni. Okay.
The impact that they can see is a lot of people are starting to respond to this, and they like the racism posters. Now they feel like it's okay to talk about it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a video we're going to show.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, raikan rakyat.
Raikan Rakyat is celebrate the people, something like that.
Kami dari keluarga besar Pangrok Sulap ucapkan bahwa terima kasih. Jadi kami ada special gift untuk volunteer.
Thank you both. Thank you. Well, I hope we can do a chat poster together with you. Okay, now may I please have Marianne and we to join the cross-section moderated by him.
Hi everyone, I'm Him Lo from Music's the Community and Learning Curator. Check, yeah, we just changed. And I think it's like after this section, and what I heard is it exactly answered the the question from this first section. What are we weaving? Because like in this section, what we see is like more layers for the understanding of textile, these terms. And I mean like weaving, we just, I mean, not just about textile, not just about fabric, but we weave about like people, we together, stay together. We can easily see from their project, the people hung together, sing together. Rizo, do you want to like show us how we sing? Do you sing in Malaysia? Or you? No, maybe later, tomorrow after dinner. He needs a guitar, okay. So, and I think it's, important for us to think about our role and identity to get into the community. And it's the discussion in section 1 as well. What's the meaning of community and how you get involved in the community? Maybe later, I think our speaker can share before they plan their project, what they think about to plan, how they work with the community neighborhoods or the people inside. And also, I can see they are from different backgrounds, and that's very important and very good for us to have this kind of sharing or discussion, like the Bluecoat from Liverpool and ZeroStation, and also Rizo from Malaysia. The nature, I mean, the scale of the art organization are different. So what's the difference between them when they really operate in community and their understanding of community as well? So maybe I would like to ask, all of our speakers, the first question is like, how you understand or address yourself, your identity or your role when you work with community people or in your organization. Yeah.
Hello. Actually, in Vietnam, when we speak about community, it's not like something natural. Because, like me now, if I want to work with any community, it's very difficult. Because I need to have the license. When I approach to them, it's like, if in Vietnam I go to the community in village, so the representative will come and ask, why you come here? To do what's the meaning or whatever, something like that. So I think that, of course, we still can solve that problem. It's not so terrible as, in beginning we think, but I think that it's still the issue. So, and even we can solve the problem, the concept about the relationship, it change. So it's not natural. So, and I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about community as I'm not really thinking about community. Actually, I think it's like I have the space so everyone can join, and somehow I think it's not like we think about community as in the theoretical term, because we are living there, and we have to move, we have to survive, and we have to, like someone say, act or something. So, and every act, every move involve, the people. The people around you. It's like I have to work with artists who work with me. This is also the community, and how we work together. So I think I see the things are very organic. So, and for the community, I think that each project will be different. For me, yeah.
I guess community in the UK is a word that's got a long history. Hello? Oh, that worked. I wasn't close enough. So community's got a long history. there's a sense from the 60s of it being really sort of radical, as in taking risk, and risk has become much more difficult now. Particularly, it's just a different circumstance, a different time, and you feel responsibility to funders. So there's a kind of different association with community. I never want community to mean sort of not us or not as kind of separate. And so when we're working in Granby, I'm less expert than anyone else who lives there at living in Granby. I don't have many skills to pass on. I have some skills of working with artists, but I think you're trying to understand, and again, diversity is an overused word, but the community is made up of individuals, and you have a role that's very personal with those individuals. But if you just badge a community, you start to kind of see it too much from the outside. So institutionally, it's quite hard to be nuanced sometimes, but those nuances come from personal relationships, and they have to develop over time, I think.
Oh, okay. Seorang pekerja seni, macam saya, pendapat saya, seorang pekerja seni itu dia memain peranan yang sangat besar dalam community. Salah satu dia untuk memperkasakan dan menginspirasikan community. Dan kita ini juga sebahagian dari community. Jadi kita perlu dekat dengan masyarakat untuk sampaikan sesuatu, dan masyarakat pun respon dengan kita. So itulah bagi saya. Ya, tapi dia tertakluk pada tempat di mana kita. So macam yang saya buat kolektif yang ada di Sabah. Saya engage dengan masyarakat yang memang saya rapat. Kalau di luar mungkin dengan cara yang berbeza. Mungkin kita kena ikut cara orang, interest orang.
Well, currently for the collective, it's easier for them to describe themselves as artists to the people of Sabah and to approach them for various types of projects because it's still okay and it's still accepted by villages, by the rural area people, for them to come inside and empower them with arts. But if they were to work outside, then they would need a different kind of procedures or a different type of style, I guess.
Yes, I think it's really good because, like, here, I mean, like, everyone, we have different background, but everyone knows exactly what and why they go into the community and what's their role. I think it's very important before you go into the community. And the next question is, like, what, because here we have like a Bluecoat, a different institution or organization. Like we said, like we bring art into community, or like community art, or like this kind of terms. It's really like interesting to talk about how art means to you when you go into community. I know, like you say like you would like to use like play or game as a kind of method to cooperate with the community or play with community. So where is art? Like this kind of things. How you see art in your program? Yeah, the meaning or.
Actually, as I mentioned a little bit in my presentation, I think like arts, it's something happen. It's something happen. It can happen alone, but it also can happen with 2 or 3. So, for example, I can tell you one example. In Vietnam, if we want to have an exhibition, we need to have the license.
Yeah.
Before we have the license, and then when we exhibit, and if they say that the painting has problem, you need to avoid it, or something like that. I think now it's familiar. But the things here is that sometimes I treat, I apply some painting, or I apply the performance. But when I do it, I change. But it's okay. But the thing is that even when I change it, so the meanings of the exhibition change. So the show don't need to be politically like that. So I mean, they try to protect us from doing something exhibition, and we try to have the exhibition. But both of sides believe in exhibition, just a place to make art to happen. So, and we don't want to play that game, so we organize market. So, and I think that, you know, I mean, I don't think, initially I don't think about community.
Yeah.
So I think about moving.
And don't think about art as well. It's because
actually, I'm thinking about art, because I think that if I try to have exhibition, even treating them, the art chance. So the people always think that is a political exhibition.
Yes.
But in beginning, it's not. So I think I have to think about community. I should. Huh?
So what was the beauty? I mean, for all of us, what's the most beautiful moment or things or object or anything you found the most beautiful things in community art in your project?
Bagi saya, seni adalah satu benda yang sangat mudah untuk semua orang faham. Contohnya kalau dia melibatkan politik, politik, orang-orang politik, dia tidak akan dengar cakap orang-orang marahin yang di bawah. Tapi seni buat mereka mendengar.
For Rizo, arts, visual arts is the most easiest thing to interpret, and everyone understands it. So when they go out and do workshops and teach these people how to create these visual aid posters, when you talk about politics, politicians, they don't really listen to us, the people. But when you do something visual, and it becomes easy to understand by everyone, then it's no longer like talks and talks and talks of political nonsense. It becomes something that they really understand. So politician starts to listen when you do something that is very visual and easy to understand. So yeah, they get scared, I guess.
Okay, so they found this kind of successful feeling in the progress of making wood print and things like that.
Saya rasa ini semua proses. Yang berjaya itu bila orang lain yang sudah buat. So, kami akan teruskan apa yang kami buat.
Success, no, because it's a process. Okay. When the politician listens, then that's success. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And it's in Malaysia. We can share it. How about in Liverpool? Was the for example, in Bluecoat, is a huge scale of space. And then we saw quite a lot of different groups of stakeholders in the community to share the space. So which moment you feel the most beautiful in this space through art? And
I think it's really easy as an institution to forget why you're there, and you can become very kind of corporate and feel that you're there to defend your own identity or brand. And I think always remembering to undo that is important. And so the moments I sort of enjoy most are when people are using the building quite casually, and when you see people finding a different reason to kind of use it. And out at Granby, it's really when we just start to have conversations about who we're working with and why we're working with people. And I'm preoccupied with language because the art world tends to validate certain forms of practice more than others. But if you have relationships where you can get beyond whether this is community art or this is not, you're starting to kind of make change, really. And I think it might be quite small, but I think institutions have to think how they're useful. There is a kind of discourse of usefulness happening in the UK because you are funded and you are responsible, and I don't think artists are as responsible. I think we're responsible, but I think it's almost like the responsibility is about letting things go as well and letting things happen. And it's quite hard for institutions to do that sometimes.
I would like to know more how, is there any special skill or to make it happen as an institution, and how to balance the funders and like I mean the community needs, the attitude. I mean, yeah.
I mean, we all have our key performance indicators and our like the joy of KPIs. We all have our kind of reporting mechanisms, but if you only think success is that, then that is a form of failure, really. So I suppose we all live where we work, and we're connected to the city, and you have to get to know artists and be approachable and create space, because if you over-program, there's no space for things to come in. So it's almost sort of, yeah, under-program and see what happens in the gaps.
Yeah, sure. And after this question, maybe I think we can give, if anyone would like to ask some question to our speakers. And I mean, my last question is how you evaluate your program, I mean, community program, as like institution, like self-run community program, and how you measure your program is, if it's good or not, I mean, not good or bad, but how you think or measure those programs. Yeah.
Actually, you know, it's a very interesting question, because when we do project with the funding, the funder always asks us to evaluate after the project finished. Is how many come, how many people come, or whatever. And I found that they always think that many people come could be the successful. Many people know about that could be successful. But as I mentioned about in beginning of my presentation, I'm thinking about the visible and invisible. So I'm happy with 1 or 2 people come, because I think that if the owner of the world love art, maybe problem. So, you know, I think that art don't need to be loved by all the people like that. So, because I think the manner of the existence of art, it should be like that. It should be visible and invisible in that way. So, you know, I think somehow, of course, I have to make, I have to, you know, like do what the funder asks us, report something like that. But actually, in myself, I'm thinking that if I organize like talk, I mean, serious talk, but 1 or 2 people come, I'm happy. Maybe more than,
yeah.
Because if it's okay, if it's, you know, so I think evaluation is maybe difficult. But with my idea, I think that when you finish the project, it's okay.
Okay.
And you still, you know, survive, it's okay.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do a huge amount of quantitative evaluation, you know, the stats basically, but we've realised we haven't left enough time to really reflect on what a project was like. And you can actually gather an awful lot of data and then carry on exactly as you were before. You can output, but you don't change. So we tried for the Abacus exhibition for children, just like different techniques, like a 360-degree where everyone got to feedback, the volunteers in the gallery, the artists, everyone who was involved, and really thought, what have we learned? What would we do again? What would we change? And it's just making space for those kind of moments, I think, are important. With Granby, I'll feel it's a success if we still know people, like 2 years down the line. I think it does feel like we're forming relationships. And if I see Samaya and Safea's careers moving along, I think we'll have had an effect, but they're also driving them themselves. So sometimes it's about an individual relationship, and other times, institutionally, you can actually do a lot of evaluation and not learn. So it's the space and time to do that.
Saya pun susah juga mau cakap, tapi macam Pangrok Sulap, dia betul-betul start dari kosong, kan? Kita start dari kosong, tapi dengan dukungan masyarakat, dengan bantuan masyarakat, sokongan masyarakat, kita boleh sampai pergi Spain dalam jangka masa 2012 pergi 2017 kita sudah pergi terlalu jauh karena ada sokongan masyarakat. So penting dia dalam kita engage dengan community. So kita mau itu support.
According to Rizo, since 2012 they started Zero, and now they're in Spain, proclaiming what was needed to tell the people about what's happening back home. So he would describe that as progress that needs the community to support you. So like the poster says, the community is behind me and I'm behind the community. So yeah, it's like that. It's ongoing process.
Yes, thank you. I think it's good to have like this kind of sharing from different scales, community organization, and the method, and the outcome as well. It's very important to see from different angle and aspect. So I would like to see if anyone would like to ask some question to our speakers. Okay. Usually it happens all the time. And I think it's time for the next round.